You were listening to a Nerd Room podcast, a member of the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network. Be sure to check out more from the Star Wars Commonwealth on the web at starwarscommonwealth.com and take your first steps into a larger world. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Nerd Room, where we talk all things comics and movies. This is episode number 78. We're discussing our prelude to Spider-Man Homecoming. I'm your host, Tim.
I'm Troy.
And I'm Chris.
Chris, welcome back, buddy.
Welcome back to Alpha Comics as well.
Yeah, Chris has opened up the doors here to the illustrious Alpha Comics. We're recording right here in the comic book shop. It's amazing atmosphere to record in. I'm so excited to be back in here, and we just want to say thank you for having us back, inviting us back here to your sanctuary.
Well, I'm glad to have you guys, absolutely. This is a lot of fun, I think, doing it right into the store.
When you look at the environment that you've created here and the atmosphere, it really fosters and nurtures comic book and movie talk. And that's exactly what we're here to discuss this week. Like we always do with our comic book movies, we do a prelude episode here. So we're going to break down a bit of the comic book origins of Spider-Man, some arcs we think may influence the movie, and also take a look back at Spider-Man films themselves to see what maybe we'd like to see going forward in this universe. We're going to stay relatively spoiler-free here. We're going to try to move ourselves away from the trailers and use our comic book knowledge to speculate a bit as to what we think is going to be in this film and what we'd like to see in Spider-Man films going into the future. This seems to be being received quite well, so I want to sit here and discuss with, especially you, Troy. You're the Spider-Man guy here, so I want to hear what you want to see in Spider-Man films going forward, and if they're going to rehash what we've seen in the past with villains like Doc Ock and that in the Spider-Man MCU world. But before we get into all that, and before we even get to our news, I want to give Chris an opportunity. It's been a while since we've been here, since we've been on the podcast together. How are things going with you, and how are things going with Alpha Comics?
Well, I guess we've had a while. I can't remember how far back the Logan movie was.
March.
It's on home video now.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of things going on at Alpha Comics. We've got way more back issues in stock. We've got a lot more key issues in stock. We just started doing CGC books, so we can get books graded for people and slabbed in there. Yeah, people are really excited about this because apparently nobody else is doing it in Calgary right now. And we've also been having a lot of fun and doing trips outside the store to meet different artists and creatives in the comic industry. So we've gotten to meet Art Adams, J. Scott Campbell, and Jim Lee recently. Gotten some books signed, brought them back to the store. People have been pretty excited about that as well.
That's fantastic. I saw your video on your Facebook page with Jim Lee.
Yeah.
That looked pretty awesome.
So I'll give you some backstory on the video, because the video, of course, is only like a snapshot of what's going on. And it was towards the end of his signing, and it was getting a little quiet. And it was a last-minute idea to ask him to do a video for the store. I don't think he heard the word video because he seemed like surprised on the video.
He did. Okay. He's kind of confused. Yeah.
But I had no plans on what to say to him, nothing.
Yeah.
And so what just came out of me was like get him to Calgary. And Jim's like a really clever, classy guy, so he made some fun out of that.
Right.
And it made for the perfect video, I thought. It was great.
Yeah, it was really good. It seems that, like, especially with your Facebook page and all that, and keeping an eye on you on Twitter, that the store it's getting a lot of hype recently, I find, in the city. A lot of people I talk to are asking a lot about Alpha Comics, and I think it comes down to, like, as we're sitting here, the environment that you've created. And with all these back issues now, I'm a huge fan of back issue collecting, just going and flipping through long boxes. And now that you have so many back issues here, it opens up kind of a new avenue from before. It's like you've got your trades here, your back issues, you've got your new stock, your Wednesday new stock, you got some pops and all that. So the store is looking fantastic, man.
Awesome. Thanks. We're always trying to go one step more to what expectations are and doing the whole package of comics. We have comics in our name, and we want to make sure that's our focus. So if there's an avenue in comics to do, we're going to want to do it.
Yeah, I find that with the shops here is that you're always evolving and changing things around, similar to how you do with your own personal nerd room.
Yes.
It's that it's always an evolving piece of art that you have internally at your house, or in your case at the shop here. And every time we come in here, it's different, and I love that. It's like there's something new to look at. There's a new statue. There's new comics, whatever. That's the best part about going and coming into Alpha, is that it's always different. It's never static. And I think that's so important with the industry too, because the industry itself is always evolving, changing, and having a shop that reflects that is really cool.
That's a really cool way to look at it. I didn't really compare it to the industry as a whole, but I definitely compared it to our own personal collections at home.
Yeah.
It's kind of the comic feng shui that we've got. Yeah. And it's because we get new parts of our collection, and that means it's a ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
We got to change the whole thing. We'll get a new action figure, put it on display. Oh, it doesn't go quite well with that figure, so we're going to move the whole display around. So the store is definitely that same kind of idea.
Yeah, and like as new movies come out and new comics and all that, like I find myself with my own personal nerd room is that it kind of ebbs and flows. Sometimes it's really Marvel heavy what's out, and sometimes it's really Star Wars heavy. It just depends. It's usually in December, it's quite Star Wars heavy,
right.
And towards the summertime, it's quite Marvel heavy because of how the movies and the industry is kind of swaying back and forth, or at least the franchises that I'm attached to sway back and forth. So it's cool to see that same sort of evolution in the store.
Yeah, we definitely see it here. I kind of call it more of a push and a pull, back and a forth, but definitely we see it here as well.
Excellent. And yourself, like, what are you collecting these days? What are you reading, other than probably everything?
I wish I could read everything. That's more time than I have in the day, but Peter Parker Spider-Man #1 just came out. Spectacular Spider-Man. Depends on how old you are, maybe what you call it. The official title is Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man. And Chip Zdarsky writes it. He's a Canadian cartoonist and writer. He's famous for his image book, Sex Criminals, and he's done some other stuff as well. Howard the Duck, he's written that for Marvel, and he's really funny, and I'm really happy to have a funny writer writing Peter Parker Spider-Man. I think that's super important. I think Marvel's catching on to doing that some more. They're getting their more funny writers onto books like Guardians of the Galaxy, where Star-Lord's very funny, but in the past, in the comics, Star-Lord's not really known as a funny character, but the movies has kind of developed that. Yeah. So Marvel's been doing really well landing funny writers for these funny characters lately, I think.
They have done a good job recently on shifting creative teams around and trying to fit these little niche books. And I agree with you, Guardians is the same way. Like, Bendis' stuff was all right, but he never fully fit that. He's always in my head an Avengers type guy and kind of doing more of the ensemble. But it's capturing the voice, especially of those Guardians characters, that's somewhat difficult because you have, especially coming in from the movies, they're trying to parallel a bit of that.
Right.
And it's so hard to capture those individualized characters from the films and project that into a comic book with a single writer, because there's so many different personalities on that team. And I think you're right that they've shifted it towards the right direction, trying to capture a bit of that essence from the films and that. Well, like we always do with the start of these episodes, we're going to kick it off here with a little bit of news, and then we're going to get into our Spider-Man Homecoming Prelude episode. And last week, Sanjay and I discussed in a bit of detail the bombshell that came out of Lucasfilm, and that was Phil Lord and Chris Miller departing the young Han Solo, the Untitled Han Solo film. And this was quite surprising news. This is something that we basically looked at the internet before we started recording last week and discussed it because it kind of popped up right there. And so we didn't have the full detail of the situation and kind of how this antagonistic rift between Kathleen Kennedy and the duo of directors kind of developed over time and how they're progressing this movie. Now, Troy, you're a big Star Wars guy.
Yes.
I got to get your take on this because you didn't have an opportunity to talk to it last week. What are your thoughts, firstly, on the duo leaving this film about 75% of the way through filming?
I think it's way too late. I think it's way too late of a decision for them to have made. It's kind of funny because, these guys must go back and forth with how many meetings and, trying to figure out their script, their story, the direction where they want to go. So the fact that you have guys like Lorde and Miller who've done the Lego Movie and 21 Jump Street, they're all very funny movies, but they're all very different from the original takes. If you look at the Legos as kids, you never really imagined your Legos kind of like the Lego Movie with all that humor. When you look back at the original 21 Jump Street, it's a lot different than what we got. So taking these characters and putting them with Han Solo is kind of different in the first place. And I haven't really been big on the Han Solo movie in the first place. Hearing this news kind of scares me a little bit, but I do like the direction they're going now.
Yeah.
The course correction, right?
And one of the interesting things that was put out there was that Kathleen Kennedy and Lawrence Kasdan and Lucasfilm hired them to add a comedic touch to the film. A film that was very much still supposed to be a Star Wars movie.
Yes.
Fit inside that very small sandbox that is Star Wars, that feel, that vibe to it. And they thought they were hired to make a comedy. And some people were likening it to Ace Ventura.
That's right.
Which is insane.
Scary.
Like, it's very scary. If Aldrich Einrich was coming out there and just running around making faces and being just a goofball,
Right.
this wouldn't fit into what these anthology films are supposed to be, at least.
Right.
I think out of the gate here with these anthology films, they were quite successful with Rogue One. They did have the rewrites and the reshoots and the retooling of the movie. But coming out the other end, it was quite successful, and it felt like a Star Wars movie. That was a lot of what people said. This feels like an updated Star Wars film. It feels like it's still part of that universe.
Right. I think Gareth Edwards was also willing to play more ball,
Yes.
with that team, as opposed to these two guys who were a little more on the rebel side, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you look at Han Solo, like Rogue One, you had the ability to have some artistic license with it. You could kind of evolve things the way you wanted to and more nod to the larger Star Wars.
Because the original
universe.
characters, too, so we didn't have a background. of these
Exactly. But
characters,
with
yeah.
this Han Solo film, this is a character that's been around for 40 years.
Yeah.
He's very well established. The character traits
A lot of
haven't
people's favorite character.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's been picked over for the last 40 years, and we revisited him a couple years ago in The Force Awakens. So if this character isn't the perfect portrayal of Han Solo as Harrison Ford portrayed him,
Yeah.
they're immediately at the gate, they're losing here.
Yeah.
And that was always going to be the hardest part was, does Aldrich Einrich look like Harrison Ford?
Right.
Is he going to be able to have that voice and carry that prowess that Harrison
That
Ford
gravitas
does?
that he has, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So even the directors thinking that they could stray a bit from a Star Wars film and from this character,
Yeah.
I just don't get where they were going with it. And I'm happy that Lucasfilm stepped in here, I think at the caution of Aldrich Einrich.
Right, because he has the most to lose, kind of.
Yeah.
Well, besides Star Wars themselves, Lucas, he has quite a bit to lose. This kind of make or break his career here.
Yeah,
Right?
it definitely could.
Yeah.
This could, propel him to superstardom.
Right.
Or if this flops,
He could be the next little Anakin. I forgot the actor's name.
Yeah.
But everybody gave him
Lloyd.
they gave him a hard time. So he potentially could walk that line.
yeah. So, Chris, any thoughts here?
So Ron Howard.
Yes, Ron Howard.
I kind of remember with Phantom Menace, wasn't he one of the consultants for George Lucas? He gave him the thumbs up on the cut that came to theaters for Phantom Menace.
I believe so. So the director replacing Chris Miller and Phil Lord is going to be Ron Howard, a Lucasfilm staple almost, someone that's comfortable, someone that's safe. And he came out to the defense, I think, of Jake Lloyd in the Phantom Menace, and he did kind of give a thumbs up. But you look at the initial reviews for Phantom Menace, and everyone loved the film. And it's kind of had this renaissance recently where people understand what it's all about, and people are no longer on this prequel hating boat anymore.
Yeah, it's kind of moved on, right?
Yeah, people have moved past that, and we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. Is that how the content that they've built up around it in the last few years, even since the Disney buyout, they've made and elevated the prequels. Whether that's the Clone Wars or Rebels or the comic books that are coming out in and around it. For me, I have more of an affinity for the prequels now because of the content they've created around it. And going back and revisiting Maul in Rebels and in Clone Wars and all that, they've made those characters better. And it's like we always call it the Winter Soldier effect, is that follow-on material makes the material before it better.
Yeah.
And I think the Phantom Menace is really that. And so I really don't know about the Ron Howard giving the thumbs up, but even so, like he's supporting Lucas on his endeavors here, this prequel, and people are hyped for that. But what do you think on Ron Howard here? Like, he is a very safe choice, I think.
He'll be able to get the job done.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of work by the sounds of it. If they've had all this time to build Ace Ventura 3,
Yeah.
then what is he going to do with what they shot? Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be down to the editing room. They're probably not going to want to dump a lot of money into reshoots and stuff like that. But
Yeah, I also think Kathleen Kennedy and Lorde's Kasdan is going to play a big role in this because he's kept Han Solo so close to him since episode 5, Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, he wrote Empire.
So I think it's going to be predominantly those two really kind of pushing the forefront more so even than Ron. Because if you look back at his track record, Rush was pretty good, the race car movie, based on a true story. Heart of the Sea wasn't received so well, and he did another movie as well. But his 90s run was a lot more stronger than his current run as a director. So I think it's a safe choice for the name, but can he get the job done for a Star Wars film? I don't know. I think he's kind of just there for name recognition. I really do think it's going to be Kathleen Kennedy and Lawrence kind of...
Well, because Lawrence Kasdan was one of the other guys that was rumored to be taking the helm.
Exactly, as director himself.
Yeah, as director.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. It's going to be more of a tandem here, and Lawrence Kasdan helped out J.J. Abrams quite a bit on The Force
big time. And
Awakens.
that felt like Han Solo.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's consulting there. So I think that they're correcting course here, and I think Ron Howard, I'm happy about it. He's got the history with George Lucas, the
Yes.
American Graffiti, and he's got
Willow and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Willow, yeah. So he's got a long history with Kathleen Kennedy, with Lucasfilm, and he's someone that I can confidently say that at the end of the day, yes, he's going to shepherd this past the finish line and produce something that I think we can all be happy with.
Yes.
And I agree with you. A lot of it's going to come down to editing and how they can chop this up. Because I have a feeling what they're going to do is I think they've halted production up until the 10th of July or something like that. They're probably going to go in and see what they have and try to rough cut something together and be like, okay, we have 75% of principal photography done, 25, 50%, whatever is usable.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that a lot of it is going to be the landscape shots and the big scale action sequences are going to be usable. But the character focus moments, I have a real feeling they're going to have to go back and reshoot a lot of that.
For sure.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah, especially if they're going off and being all comedic. Like, there's such particular characters. Even with Lando, you can't have Lando and Han feeling different.
No.
Because this should maybe get close to A New Hope as far as age and
For sure, because it covers, 5 years of Han Solo there. A question for you guys. Do you think this kind of puts future younger directors in jeopardy for Star Wars? Because if you look at... if you go back to, which one was it? The Boba Fett movie that we were meant to get with Josh Trank. Gareth Edwards had a little bit of a rough time with Kathleen Kennedy, and then we've had this fallout now too.
And Colin Trevorrow.
Exactly,
we
right?
spoke last week about rumors that people were starting to get nervous about him writing and his capabilities as a director and all that.
Exactly. So do you think they'll go more of the safe choice now these days, going further, especially into the standalone films?
Yeah, I think Star Wars was trying to do something similar to Marvel.
Right.
In a sense that we're taking writer-director combos, which I think is the right way to go.
Yeah.
There's a lot more investment in a director there. And trying to give these younger, up-and-coming directors something that they could chew on, something they could put their own vision into.
Yeah.
But the problem with Star Wars, when you compare it to Marvel, is that Marvel gives you that artistic license to do whatever you want. A guy like James Gunn can do what he wants in the Guardians universe. That was a risk they took. But you're in the Star Wars universe here. You can't go too far outside of that box yet.
No.
They're not comfortable stepping outside and doing something that doesn't exactly feel like the Star Wars movies that we saw when we were younger.
That's right.
But I think for these anthology movies, until they're convinced that they're going to do well on their own, they're not going to step too far outside of the Star Wars world, of the feel of it.
Right.
And so giving these young directors the ability and saying, look, do whatever, that's not the case here.
No.
And so I think they're going to have to take a step back and be like, who can we depend on? Guys like Joe Johnson have been thrown around. He's the Rocketeer, and he's done some Jurassic. He's friends with Spielberg.
First Avenger.
Yeah, he did First Avenger. Yeah, so he can produce movies and kind of fit within the Star Wars universe. Going to these young guys, I don't know. You look at the track record of Gareth Edwards, Colin Trevorrow, these Chris Lorde and Phil Miller. They don't exactly scream Star Wars big budget movie.
Right.
I like the idea of giving Star Wars movies to different directors. Like you look at the original trilogy, 3 different directors.
Yep.
And you got 3 different movies out of that. And I agree with that. I want something that feels somewhat different and somewhat like it's evolving through the narrative process of filmmaking. But it's still got to feel like a Star Wars movie.
Of course.
At the end of the day.
The characters have to feel the same, which is to the point of like Han and Lando wanting to see them represented the same way that we have them up here.
Yeah.
And I think that's important all the way through. And the director choice, I think it's better if they're going with not necessarily the safe choice, but the experience choice.
Yes.
Of course, yeah.
The stakes are too high. These are huge movies now, so they gotta pick right directors for them. It's interesting that they would pick a young director with fresh ideas and stuff to bring to it, but that's not what Star Wars is anymore. Like it's this world, this universe that we've become accustomed to visiting now.
Yeah. Like in the multimedia outside of the films is where you can have that licensing to kind of do what you want.
Yes.
And you look at the books, the comics and all that.
The
Like
games,
that's when they can do and experiment with different things to
Right.
see how people receive these.
Yes.
But the films at this point in time, I think in the future they will get there where they can make a Guardians-esque movie, one that doesn't feel like it fits within that blueprinted, that scripted Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
But right now isn't the time for that. They're still kind of walking this fine line with releasing a new trilogy, anthology movies. They got to be careful here because there's a lot at stake. Like you said, not only financially, but you have this massive fandom that like Star Wars fans are often the most critical of Star Wars, and it's this rabid fan base that wants to see these movies succeed. And I think to do that, yes, they might have to play it a bit safer in the future.
Yep, completely agree.
So it'll be interesting to see. I think it's all going to be fine. I'm happy with Ron Howard. I think it's the right direction to go. And it's just going to be interesting when they start announcing other movies at some point, who's going to be helming these things. Are they going to be turning to the older, the veterans of Hollywood as opposed to what they were doing before, kind of with this Marvel look to their selection of directors and writers and that?
Martin Scorsese, next up.
All right, guys. Well, we are here in Alpha Comics. We're right here in the comic book shop. What better place to discuss the biggest announcement in comic book history? And that's coming from Marvel. Marvel Legacy. This is what we were promised, a game changer for the industry. And we've all been speculating what this Marvel Legacy is exactly going to be. There's been rumors and discussions for a while now that this is going to be a return to the status quo for Marvel Comics. People, and myself included, have been a bit harder in the last 6 months to a year on Marvel because of how different things feel and how I'm just not fully engaged in the storytelling that's going on. Recently, it's been getting better. I've praised Secret Empire from beginning to end here, and I'm going to continue to do that. But this status quo change, or this shift back to Thor Odin's son, Bruce Banner, Hulk, Captain America, this is the thing that we think is going to happen, or at least seems that way as far as them leading us on here. And this announcement, I think it was last Friday or so, or over the weekend, about what was going to happen, turned out to be a bunch of images of the covers and a release of 52 comic books that are going to be in this Marvel Legacy soft reboot or revamp or whatever you want to call it. Interesting number there, 52. What's your take on Marvel having their own new 52 to a degree here?
52 Rebirth. The covers were interesting. Seeing I think it was X-Men Gold, and then they did the astonishing Joss Whedon cover. That was kind of cool. I feel like every year or every 2 years at least, we're getting this promise of like the change of the status quo or going back to the status quo, and it doesn't quite get there. I thought we were going to get like a clean reboot with Secret Wars. Didn't really work out that way. They skipped an 8-month gap there. So as readers, we're all like, what happened during this point of time? And now they're deciding to go back and do another relaunch of some sort. So it's interesting. I just don't really know what to take of this anymore. I'm kind of fatigued with all of these status quo switch ups. I think DC did it right with Rebirth, though. Rebirth nailed it out of the park and it's still going strong today. So I'm curious to see what Marvel's going to do.
So the push and pull. This is what I was kind of referring to earlier. I don't know if I've ever seen both publishers doing like super amazing. It's always either Marvel's being talked about well or DC's being talked about well. And we do know that these guys take jabs. I do notice Marvel takes jabs at DC. New 52, I don't know if they published a press release using the title saying 52 books or whatever.
26
somebody
at
just
a time.
Counted them. Yeah.
They released, literally, the release was 26 books at a time.
Okay.
They released it. It can't be a coincidence.
Right. So they do things like that. I could think of some examples of variant numbers they've used in the past to kind of jab at that. And it's really weird. And I don't know why they would choose that, because now we're talking about DC Rebirth.
Yeah,
52.
Exactly.
When we should be talking about Marvel, what is this great big change of the industry that they're promising us? Marvel's marketing for a very long time has been very strange, where they'll just show us a picture and give us a title, a tag, or a word. And we're left here to decide, what are they going to do? Are they going to do? And it always feels like what they're going to do is a big reboot or something like that. Marvel's never really done a true reboot, but the renumbering happens quite often. And like you said, Troy, about Secret Wars, like that was really a good opportunity for them to do any refining of their universe then.
Yeah.
So with this legacy idea, you can't have a legacy without something going on presently. So I don't think they're going to get rid of any characters. I think everybody's here to stay. One thing that people aren't talking about enough, though, is Fantastic Four.
Yes.
Right.
How can you have Marvel Legacy without talking about their first book? How can you not have that?
That's right.
So I know the editor-in-chief, Axel Alonso, he's been teasing this thing well, it is a thing.
Yeah,
it's the thing.
Yeah.
But instead of a 4 on his belt, it's a 2.
Right.
So are they going to do Fantastic 2 with Human Torch and Thing, and maybe have Moon Girl on the team, or something strange?
So
along
I
the
think
lines
they're
of that?
doing a Marvel 2-in-1 with Human Torch and Thing.
I did hear something about 2-in-1. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going to be the book that's going to feature 2 of the members of the Fantastic Four. So that is one of the new books here amongst the 52 that they did announce, so something a little different.
And the 2-in-1s were always featuring the Thing, I believe.
Yes, they were. Yeah. Yeah, from back in the day. I'm sure you've got some kicking around. In these long
I
boxes
know
somewhere.
I do for sure.
Yeah. But when you look at this list, and I'm not going to rattle off all 52 books here, but it closely parallels the books that we have right now, like right down to the X-Men Blue and Gold, Daredevil Defenders, you've got Gwenpool in here, Black Bolt, the Avengers, like everything seems to be there that's there right now. I was expecting a much more refined list of comics and then a slow release after. But it just doesn't seem that they've gone that extra step to refine this down to a product where we're getting quality over quantity. I'm a big fan of maintaining continuity through all this and coming up with some way, whether it's a cosmic cube or whatever, to kind of reset the status quo here. But when I look at this and the way that they've released this in this big 26-issue dumps, it just doesn't seem like they're putting that effort into it that I want to see about this, maybe a slow burn release about what's going on. Tease us a little about Thor Odinson coming back, or Banner's Hulk, or whatever. It just
Wolverine, anything.
yeah, they're just not really overly committed, it seems, because when you look at the books that are on this list, The Incredible Hulk is going to be revisiting the Planet Hulk story with Amadeus Cho.
Right.
You've got the Thing in Human Torch, like we discussed. They tease the death of Jane Foster's Thor. So there's little things in there, and Falcon is Sam Wilson's going back to the Falcon mantle. So yes, they are changing things around here, but at the end of the day, it's going to look very similar to what we have right now. And that's not what I thought this was going to be about. Like, we're going again more into this idea of Marvel has seasons.
Yes.
And they go up to issue 15, issue 20, and then they go back and renumber. So I can see them at some point doing what DC is doing right now and switching back to maybe it's Spider-Man or whatever.
Right, like Action Comics and Detective Comics.
Picking up where we get close to anniversary issues, like issue 700 or 800, whatever's coming up here.
Yeah.
But I'm just not thoroughly impressed with what I see here. I'm going to get into this, and I like the idea of the Marvel Legacy book. That's like it's a 10-issue arc or a 10-issue series that they're going to be dropping alongside of the re-release of a lot of this.
That's right.
So it's going to be interesting to get into that. But there's some really clear noticeable absences that I know I've already said them, but the big one here for me is there's no Captain America book.
Yeah.
And they may be holding something back because of what happens in Secret Empire. They don't want to spoil something. But at the same time, you can't have a return to the status quo without some of your big Avengers. Captain America, Banner Hulk, Thor, and the Fantastic Four. Like, you just don't... You need those characters. So it's interesting how they're kind of laying all this out. They're promising big things, and they're promising the shift.
Industry-changing event.
But I'm just not seeing it yet. And I just don't know why they're continuing to go down this path. Like, if they weren't going to launch it this way, don't sell it this way to the consumer. And I've said this numerous times in the podcast in the past years that I've cut my pull list down to about 5-6 comic books, and the majority of them are Star Wars books right now. Because I'm waiting for an avenue back into a re-engagement of Marvel Comics.
And I actually have a lot of customers like yourself. They love Marvel. They grew up with Marvel, but right now it's the Star Wars books that's engaging to them, and not necessarily the other books. And just because you're a comic fan doesn't mean you're going to jump from Marvel to DC. You'll maybe just stick with what you like, and the Star Wars books are of high quality. They're great. The new Darth Vader series is awesome.
Yes. Charles Soule.
Yeah, he's like the golden touch on the Star Wars books.
Yeah,
really.
he is.
But yeah, it's really concerning that people who grew up on these characters and really enjoy these characters a lot, now we're just watching the movies, I guess, and that doesn't feel right at all. Like, Marvel, if they're the best movies, they should be the best comics. They should be the best comics. They've got these awesome characters. The new characters are great too. Like, I can't pick on any of those characters as being bad or anything like that. I don't think they should get rid of old characters, new characters at all. Use them all, and let people decide with their dollar what they're going to buy, and make those books high quality. Like,
Yep.
seems simple. I don't run the company or anything, but that's all I would think of.
They've got to strike a balance between the new and the old, and between this legacy and this other generations thing that they're doing here, where they're pairing up in this 10-issue miniseries type thing, or one-shots where they're kind of pairing up Thor and Jane Foster's Thor and Kate Bishop and Hawkeye. And so they're kind of going down this path where they're acknowledging the fact that they want to have two Hawkeyes and two Hulks and all this, and have a new and an old, and develop those stories together. But I think at the same time, they need to recognize that it is all about a balancing act. And it's going and promoting the fact that, yes, we have these new characters, and using old characters to prop them up and get people into this. Like, I agree. Like, there's a lot of really great characters that have come out in the last couple of years. And I love the Sam Wilson and Falcon stuff. It's been absolutely great. Even the Amadeus Chow stuff, I don't love it, but I also don't hate it. Like, there's a lot of good characters there. Like, Camilla Khan as Miss Marvel has been fantastic, and a lot of the new Guardians stuff that they're doing. There's a lot of positive things there, but it just seems so spread out to me. Like, when you say you got 52 books here, how many of those are going to get chopped within the first 10 issues, would you say, from your perspective, and seeing kind of this evolution and seeing new books come out and all that?
Well, the way I've been seeing books kind of evolve is to fit into the trade paperback format.
Yeah.
So every book out there, it's almost like we have to treat as a miniseries. Every book that's released, 6 issues.
Yeah.
If they want to do more, they'll do more, but no hard feelings. There aren't canceled books. That's just what they're shooting for, is to get a trade paperback out there.
Yeah. Do you find that the trade paperbacks move a lot better than the single issues, or is that...
Not in my store.
No.
Maybe in the bookstore market or something like
Chapters
that.
or whatever, yeah.
But if they mess with that formula, then the whole thing's broke, right?
Yeah.
They got to have those 6 issues to fit in a book, a storyline to fit in the book. Some of these books these days really feel written for a trade paperback. I don't know if you guys have read the new Hulk series starring
She-Hulk?
She-Hulk.
No.
Do we do comic book spoilers on here? Just not movie spoilers.
Yeah, well, you can go.
Just let them know
It's
there's
been
a
out for
spoiler.
more than a month,
Oh,
so
okay.
it should
Yeah.
be okay.
Yeah, so spoilers here
Yeah.
first.
So spoiler alert, if you haven't read the Hulk Volume 1 trade paperback coming out, and it is the gray version of the She-Hulk.
Okay.
And people really do enjoy this book, but she doesn't become the Hulk until the 6th issue.
Wow.
Okay.
Is it? So it's not Jennifer.
It is.
It is still Jennifer,
So
okay.
it's following the events of Secret
Civil War II?
Civil War II. Yeah. Thank you. And it's hard. So from her state from there, she was basically repressing the Hulk, and it's a different type of Hulk. It's her gray Hulk, and it's kind of a creepy version of a Hulk, I find. But the covers have always featured this Hulk, and the covers have been so amazing. So if anybody opened up a book thinking, oh, I'm going to get this Hulk in it, well, they wouldn't unless they picked up the trade paperback, I guess, because that's how that story was written, definitely.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. You mentioned there briefly that you're seeing customers and people that you interact with a lot are having these same feelings about Marvel.
Yep.
Do you think this is industry-wide? Like, do you think this is something that Marvel acknowledges? Like, I just don't. Like, this is something that I've heard quite a bit over the last year or so, and I'm a diehard Marvel fan. Like, I'll never switch sides.
Right.
If you like, seriously though, and I do read some DC stuff, but Marvel is where I'm at, and I will be loyal to them through the thick and thin. But do you see Marvel coming around at some point or acknowledging fandom? Because, like, most recently, I guess, as far as Marvel acknowledging things, was this whole digital comic thing. They kind of walk back on that after only a month or two because there's this huge outcry from
And
fandom.
usually these companies are quite bullheaded and don't budge on things like that. But yeah, the fans were like, where's my proper code for my book?
Right.
And so I think it was only 3 months and they fixed it, right? I think the legacy and generation stuff coming up is kind of a response, but I feel it might be a delayed response. Usually their storylines they're working on like 2 years in advance and stuff. So I think they're making changes, and that's why the legacy stuff coming up isn't all the way clear what's going on as well. I think they're still trying to sort things out.
Yeah, see their pants type thing.
But there was a very public retailer summit that happened with Marvel just recently, and a lot of that stuff was spoken with Marvel. So it's not just my market. It's citywide, it's nationwide, it's market-wide.
Because they're hurting in sales in general. Like,
Well, they're doing okay, but we want Marvel to be doing the best.
Yes.
And I'm sure they feel the same way. I don't know. Like I like to play armchair, Marvel editor-in-chief or Marvel president and stuff like that. And it's hard for me to get in the heads of a company that's been around for so long. You think like they'd have us like lining up like for their stuff like easy.
Yeah.
But it's not the case. I don't know if they're paying too much attention to the internet. I know that's fouled them up back in the day when they did the unmasking for Spider-Man. The internet was very upset by that. Yeah. So to correct it, they did the Mephisto storyline,
right. One more
which
day.
made it worse.
Yeah.
So hopefully, they got the right people working there that can make these choices. And yeah, it's not easy, I'm sure.
Do you think that this is a bit of Marvel too, not wanting to parallel or reflect the films too much to get accused of you're just copying what they're doing over here? Because it's an avenue in for sure, and I don't want them to mirror everything that's going on there, but they do have this massive marketing tool, which is the films, that they don't leverage as much as I thought they would. Like, you do see throughout the years, Tony Stark's changed into Robert Downey Jr., and the Guardians are very much so the Guardians from the films, if you compare them back to
Chris
the 2008
Pratt,
Abnett and Lanning run. And you do see some of that, the Defenders and all that. Like, right now, that's right out Netflix. But I sometimes they just don't take full advantage. And whether or not they consider that Marvel Comics is its own entity.
Its own universe.
Its own universe. Right. And they don't want to be seen to copying something that only showed up in 2008, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So some of it, I feel like, is a bit of a pushback on that as well, is that we're going to do our own thing. We're our own company, our own universe, and we can establish characters here. So I don't know if it's all that, because you hear about sometimes the rifts between TV and film and that.
Right.
And do you get something similar with the comic books, and how much can you leverage off of each other? So I feel like Marvel acts as a whole company, but in all trueness, it's several smaller companies that are trying to do their own thing, build their own universes, and not have to rely on one another.
Right.
So I don't know if it's a bit of pushback on that, but it's this whole legacy thing. I'm really pulling for Marvel here to do something good and do something big and really get back to the fundamentals of their comic books, which includes the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
But again, it's just like, this is something I've been saying for a couple of years now, is let's wait and see. They're eventually going to get back on the right track.
Yep.
Whether it's legacy or generations or something else that's coming down the road, I have full and the utmost confidence that they will get there someday. Yep. I'm just not fully there that legacy is going to be the final answer for this shift in Marvel's ability to put out top-notch books consistently.
Right. And I think they will, because DC had their troubles too with the New 52 back in 2011. A lot of people weren't reacting so well to the New 52. It worked for me because it kind of really brought me into the DC universe, but Rebirth struck gold, and it worked for them. So I don't see why Marvel couldn't do it, because DC was kind of had their backs on the ropes a little while ago there too.
Yeah,
in 2014 I was having the complaints on DC that I have today on Marvel.
Yeah.
It's that push and pull. It really is. One company will do good, the other one will bounce back, and it'll go back and forth. Yeah. Marvel will come out and they'll do it well. You bring up like the movies and the difference between the movies and the comics. It's a fine balancing act there too, I'm sure. Like, I think the comics could be done well if they mirrored the movies on the covers a lot. At least on the covers, to resemble what people are seeing, and then they come into the store and then they could see, oh, that's Thor, that's that. I have a 12-year-old customer, and she got into this through the movies, and she loves Thor. She came into the store looking for Thor, and on the new comic wall, there wasn't that character. So she picked up Jane Foster Thor. She really enjoyed it. But the other books, like Guardians of the Galaxy, before the most recent renumbering, like, it was getting really different from the movie and stuff, right? With different characters.
X-Men characters popping up.
And she almost dropped Guardians of the Galaxy because it was becoming too different from what was her new familiar through the movies and stuff, right? So, yeah, it can't be easy making those choices, that's for sure.
No one's taking acknowledgement of the fact that the movies are bringing people in, and you know this better than anyone, but I came through movies as well. I came through Captain America, the First Avenger.
Right.
Okay.
And so 2011 is when I actually started reading comic books, and it's enveloped my whole life now.
Yeah.
This is like one of my main hobbies.
Look what you're doing.
Yeah. But at the same time, that was my avenue in to comic books. And I think a lot of people are feeling that way recently. And so it's striking that balance, like I said, between the films, between the comics, and doing something different to keep people engaged in the comics, but at the same time remembering or reminding them that, yes, it is kind of like the movies a bit at the same time still, too.
It's interesting, though, because they've done it before. Like, if you go back to Amazing Spider-Man the first Amazing Spider-Man movie. The Lizard was the villain, so Marvel Comics did a whole storyline. I think it was shredding. But anyways, there's the Lizard and there's Spider-Man, so they kind of focused on those characters. If you go back to the first X-Men movie, they made the X-Men's costumes pretty similar to the Bryan Singer.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe they learned the lesson. Maybe something went wrong there. I don't really know, but they have tried doing it before.
It seems like there's really good times to do it and really maybe bad times to do it.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man with his organic webbing, like that seemed like a weird choice, but they fit it in the story and it was part of a new power set.
It's kind of cool.
People actually like grown to like it. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to wait and see here. And you guys bring up Spider-Man here.
Yeah.
I think that's a perfect segue from the comic books into our main topic of discussion, and that is our prelude to Spider-Man Homecoming. This movie drops in little over a week here. We're immensely excited for it.
Got my tickets already?
Yes. this thing looks like it's going to be huge.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see this version get his solo take in theaters here. And it seems that a lot of the critics are viewing it that way as well. Recently, we've got some indications from some early viewings from critics and fans alike that this movie is as good as Spider-Man 2.
Whoa.
So people are really praising the movie as a whole and Tom Holland's portrayal of Spider-Man. And I don't think that's really that surprising coming off of his portrayal of Spider-Man in Captain America Civil War.
Right.
I think that was really well received. And coming out of that, they really jumped on this film because this went almost immediately into production not too long after Civil War wrapped.
Right.
And we're getting this movie only, a year out from Civil War last year?
2016, yeah.
So we're getting
crazy.
this movie 1 year out from his introduction.
Yep.
And you look at Black Panther is 2 years out from that. You look at some of the characters in there, like Ant-Man and that just have had the one iteration. We don't have them running to the gate to do another Ant-Man movie right now. Like, it is coming.
Right.
But this Spider-Man was a real focus for Feige coming out of Captain America Civil War, and a real focus for the MCU. They're trying to build up their characters for post-Avengers 4. And this is going to be a real staple if this movie does well. This is going to be a real staple for the MCU going forward. They need to have their new pillars. Their Black Panther, Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, and Spider-Man. This is going to be the character, one of the characters, that carries this franchise through well into 2020 and beyond.
Right.
So it's good to see that we're getting the positive response. And the comparison to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2 is a very favorable one. I'm excited by that prospect.
Yep.
Because you look at this film, like, I don't think there was ever an expectation that this film wasn't going to be good. But to just hear people say that is very comforting. It's like Wonder Woman. Going into it, I wasn't thrilled with the idea of the movie because I'm not a huge fan of the ones that came before.
Right.
But as soon as people started talking positive about it, it really changed how I went in to this movie with my expectations. And I never went into this movie, or was never going into this movie, with a dampened expectation. But it was on the bottom of the 3 of the MCU movies that I'm excited for this year.
Yeah.
But this just gets me that much more hype, that positive flow and that positive discussion online with news outlets, whatever. I think this is going to bode very well for the movie going into its first weekend box office.
That's right. You got that bad taste over your mouth with Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
I think even Civil War's already done that, to be honest.
Oh, definitely. I do. Like, they really had to shift and do something different. And I was always pulling for a Miles Morales in this universe over a Peter Parker.
Right.
But seeing what they did in Civil War and seeing what looks like they're going to be doing in this film, I think they made the right decision to stick with what people are familiar with to a degree and telling the Peter Parker as a teenager story.
Yeah.
One thing that we always like to do here is box office predictions. We did this with Logan. We've done this with Guardians and all that. I've proven to be absolutely horrendous at making box office predictions. I predicted that Wonder Woman would only make $75 million.
Oh, okay.
Troy and Sanjay threw it $100 million, and they were right on the ball there. So whatever I say is probably not going to come true. But I'm going to try to thread together, we're going to try to piece together some evidence here, and we're going to lay down our box office predictions.
Cool.
And I think like we did last time, let's throw a little wager.
Oh, yeah.
Wager. How about just a single comic book from here at Alpha Comics?
Of course.
Might be a back
What better place
issue.
to do it?
There's some really nice ones on the wall here that are worth, one comic. 50,
Is that
60,
Jim Lee
70
X-Men
bucks.
right there?
So let's throw let's throw it on the table. I'll throw a single issue here.
Cool.
Of your choosing.
Nice.
Closest to without going over.
Cool.
All right. Well, before we do our actual predictions here, I'm going to lay out a few things here for you. So last week, Sanjay and I spoke in quite a bit of detail about the state of the cinematic universe and how and if we thought it was a benefit to Hollywood as a whole, was it a detriment? And we both came to the conclusion that, to a degree, it was benefiting specifically for these universes that we really care about, DC, Marvel, Star Wars. And you look at a franchise like Transformers. So it dropped this past weekend. No one was really talking about it, and its 5-day total is half that of Transformers 4.
Oh, wow.
So it only did $45 million, and then it's done 69 in 5 days compared to 120-something for Transformers 4.
Wow, that's the worst they've ever done then.
Yeah, this is the worst opening ever. So this is a franchise that spanned 5 movies now. Now, I'm not trying to compare this directly to MCU or whatever, but it's the idea of franchising. And we've seen multiple reboots in the Spider-Man universe. We have Raimi's trilogy, we have The Amazing Spider-Man that stopped at 2 movies, and now we have this iteration. Do you think this is going to weigh into, at all, this movie, this idea of franchising and reboots, and people tired of going back and revisiting characters or revisiting a story that they're overly familiar with? Will this factor in to the first weekend box office for Spider-Man Homecoming?
Not for Spider-Man.
No.
Not for Spider-Man.
I was trying to see if they were
Well, the biggest difference is, like you already mentioned, with Civil War, we've been introduced to this new Spider-Man, and he's so well received. I wanted an old guy Spider-Man. I wanted somebody like in his kind of mid-20s, late 20s.
Goes to Empire State.
Not a teenager again, but Tom Holland and what they presented totally sold me, and I think it did for everybody. I think people are going to be really excited for this movie.
Yeah. I agree for you there. I'm trying to play devil's advocate. Let's look at the other comic book movies this year and their first weekend hauls. So Logan did 88.
Yeah.
Well, Guardians did 146, and Wonder Woman did $103 million. And if we look back at previous Spider-Man opening weekends, we have Spider-Man 1 that came out in 2002. This was the big kickoff to comic book movies.
Yeah.
It pulled in $114 million. I believe it was one of the first, if not the first, to go over $100 million in its opening weekend.
Sorry.
This was followed up by an $88 million Spider-Man 2. And Spider-Man 3 was the biggest of the franchise so far with $151 million.
Right. The musical, right?
The musical, yes. And Amazing Spider-Man, they did have relatively good first weekend box office. But when you look at The Amazing Spider-Man, so the reboot of that franchise, it only did $62 million, which is the lowest in the franchise.
Right. The Mark Webb one. Yeah.
The Mark Webb one. So the revisiting of a story that people are familiar with, it was the first entry was the lowest because the follow-up to that was $91 million. So the sequels are going back and forth between being the highest, but the interesting bit is that reboot, that Amazing Spider-Man reboot.
Yes.
And I agree with you guys. This isn't, it is a reboot, but because it feels like, and because it's part of the MCU, it's going to have that Civil War bump behind it.
Oh, yeah. The whole MCU backing behind
exactly.
it. Yeah.
It's got Iron Man in it as well.
Even a little bit of Cap.
Yeah, a little bit of Cap.
Promotions,
We got the Avengers Tower in the background. So it feels familiar.
That's right.
So with that in mind, with kind of what we've got for comparison between the original Spider-Man trilogy, which was 15 years ago, and what we've got now, where do you guys think this is going to land for the first weekend box office?
I'm going to the ballpark of 150.
150.
Yeah, going around 150.
Bold.
Yeah.
Very bold. So do you think it'll have the legs to top the $151 million of Spider-Man 3?
Oh, to top Spider-Man 3? What was Spider-Man 3 again?
$151 million.
Yeah, because I mean, if Guardians did 146, you know what? I'll go 145.
145.
I'll go 145.
Okay.
That's where I'll sit. 145 right there, locked in.
All right. What do you got, Chris? What do you think?
Me? 146.
Oh, look at you.
No, I'm not going to do 146. I was really thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I was looking up the Civil War opening.
Right.
And it was way higher than all those other things we've been talking
Exactly.
about.
Was it 100 and...
But it's Wonder Woman's sharing theater space.
You've got Transformers in there. You've got,
but it's already going to be on its way out.
Yeah,
Not on its way
you
out,
got
but
Apes coming. Well, I guess
I'll go lower. I'll go to 135.
that's a good number.
135.
a good
Okay,
number.
well, I'm going to stay on the conservative end here again. I'm doing 117.
117. Okay.
Yeah, I want to see it top out the original Spider-Man. So that was 114. So
that's right.
And I'm factoring in here a bit of a bump. Got a crowded July here.
It's summertime. Everyone's going to be out.
Vacations.
Hit the kids. They'll hit the adults. Michael Keaton's in there, so we're going to get that older crowd, the senior crowd.
We'll see here, though. Like, I think it has all the
20s.
potential. Yeah. This thing has all the potential to do big bucks, and that's not always what matters about these movies. We want a quality movie out of this.
Yes, that's the most important thing.
I don't care what it does, but I do like throwing around the numbers because it's interesting to compare and see trends in Hollywood with franchises, particularly with the MCU. Is that, again, like I said, this is going to be one of their pillars. This needs to have a good solo outing so they can stretch this into 3 or 4 movies. Tom Holland's a young guy. For a long time.
They're going to push it for a while.
Yeah.
I want to see this guy graduate.
Should be a strong enough character to be able to do what Star Wars is doing, where it's basically a movie a year.
Yeah.
Because if they do every alternate year with Tom Holland, and in between Miles Morales, 2099.
There you go.
Spider-Man Noir.
Yeah.
Like you could keep Spider-Gwen.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't end. Like you could keep doing Spider-Man.
So much.
movies.
Well,
so much
is the
you can do.
universe that Sony tried to build.
They tried.
Failed at that, right?
They're still trying.
Well, yeah, because everything came out of Norm Osborn's basement.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why
Including the
that's
floating head.
Well, Spider-Man, he's one of the, like I said, he's going to be a pillar for the MCU, but he is one of the main pillars of Marvel Comics as well. It's a character that debuted in 1962, and he was written by Stan Lee and drawn by the man Steve Ditko.
Yes.
And we're getting a lot of that reflection in the current iteration of Tom Holland's Peter Parker of Spider-Man.
The eyes.
Yes.
The eyes say it all.
People really appreciate that, especially
love it.
Spider-Man fans here.
Been a big fan of those eyes, yeah.
And Stan Lee, I think a lot like Marvel's doing right now, is that they wanted a character that resonated with the teenage population. You look at the MCU as it is right now, it's all adults, over 35, 40. You look at the big characters here. And I think that going back to a younger Peter Parker is the right idea. This is going to bring in a slightly different demographic. You're getting your John Hughes type of a movie out of this. You're getting that high school, that proper high school that we never, I don't think, really got with Tobey Maguire.
No, or Andrew Garfield.
Yeah, and so you've been kind of saying this for a while now. This is the Peter Parker you want, the Peter Parker from the origin story, from the Ultimate Spider-Man origin story, where we go back to high school.
Yeah, the Bendis run, basically. I mean, I was like Chris actually from the beginning there when I heard they're doing this. I wanted that college Spider-Man. You know, I love that Fox Kids 90s animated Spider-Man.
That's totally what it was.
I still think his best stories are in college because he only really was in high school for 2 years of his run.
Maybe.
I think issue 30 is when he went to Empire State, which is, I think it's third year. So, but we'll get there. We have so much time to get there. And I really like what they did with introducing him in Civil War. And Tom Holland has a lot of legs on him. We can do so much with this character, this actor. So I can't wait to see what they're going to do here. This is great stuff.
He's easily the most agile Spider-Man.
Isn't he? Yeah. He really is. The stuff he's doing is incredible. So I really do think the Bendis run is the safe way to go, though, from the Ultimate Universe.
Definitely. I think that we're going to see a lot of that paralleled in this film, or at least in this universe here. And that's one of the, I haven't gone back and read a lot of Spider-Man, but the Ultimate Spider-Man run is something that I've picked up in the last couple of years. Getting into Spider-Man, I kind of started off a bit with the Ultimate Universe when I did get into comic books, because again, it's kind of a modern take on everything. And it was an easier avenue in than going back and trying to revisit the dense continuity that was Marvel comic books, or that is Marvel comic books. And I think this Mark Bagley, Brian Michael Bendis run from the early 2000s is a fantastic avenue in for this type of Spider-Man. There's parallels you can already see with Ned. Who was
like Genk. Yeah, exactly.
And then even there's a cool panel in here that I yanked off the internet, is the scene where we have the robbery in the first trailer. That is a panel right out of Bendis'
Bagley.
run.
They did that.
Yeah, Bagley did it. Yeah,
which is great.
Yeah, it is. And I think that if you want to get into comic books through Spider-Man, I don't like steering people away from the 616 or whatever they call it now, but the Ultimate Universe for Spider, that's just a good avenue in. You're going to see a lot of familiar faces, or at least themes and story and ideas and narrative in that Ultimate Spider-Man book that you're going to get in this movie. I think that's where we're going to take a lot of the influences from. And you see that strung through the MCU. And like the costumes and kind of the tone that they've set with some of these movies. I think that's really going to be reflected here. I like the idea of the Ultimate Universe for somewhat of a gateway. At least the first part of it. It gets a bit wonky near Ultimate and all that, but I think that's the way in. Do you have any comic books that you think are going to influence this a bit more, or at least maybe some comic books that you think people should look at in a little more depth if they want to get into more Spider-Man, even some of the recent stuff, to try to give people that avenue into comic books?
Well, yeah, like you mentioned, definitely the Ultimate Universe. You can't go wrong there. Again, going back to the issue issue 30. I think it's 31 to 33. It's the iconic one when Spider-Man basically has to like help his Aunt May. She's sick, and he ends up carrying like that whole science facility going underwater. He carries like the whole center on his own. He uses a lot of strength there. It's an iconic moment. Look it up. You can see images all over. I think it's something called My Destiny of some sort. But I think they're going to go that route. They're going to take little things from that book. But I think, again, it's basically going to be the Ultimate Universe that's going to shine quite a bit here. Chris, what do you think?
I think it'd be really fun to compare Spider-Man's costume that he gets from Tony Stark with the Iron Spider-Man suit. What kind of features are they taking? Are they picking?
Right.
Is he getting the police radio? Is he, does he have tentacles? I doubt it. But or extra spider arms, I guess, not tentacles. But I'm kind of wondering what's there. But I have to agree with what you've said already. Like taking from the Ultimate line from Bendis, we know he used to consult like on all the Marvel movies with the group, and it's more of an easier, accessible take rather than going all the way back to the '60s and reading words that were written for people at that time. It's very, very different. It's fun, but it's very different. But I'd be curious to see what kind of Iron Spider suit features are in this thing.
I'm curious of that as well. If they're going to go down that path, either now or eventually.
Eventually,
It'll be interesting.
Well, it's tracking him, and he doesn't seem to care.
Yeah.
So that's the modern American take, I guess. I don't know.
Something cool I hope they do borrow from the 60s or the original Spider-Man is I remember going back and reading those. Because he's such a youngster, everybody looked at him in the superhero universe that this kid has so much potential to be so strong, and they've kind of gone away from that now. And I hope they stick with that, because if you go back to Civil War, the movie, Steve Rogers notices that Peter Parker has a lot of heart in him, and he knows there's a lot of potential in this character. So I think that's already good groundwork set out, and I hope they keep up with that throughout the whole universe of this new Spider-Man movie, that this kid could one day be the best, the ultimate Spider-Man, basically.
Yeah, and because recent rumors are pointing towards that Tony Stark is going to return for the sequel, that it's going to be another Avenger. It's going to be someone else.
Right.
So it's interesting because you look back at comic book history, and Spider-Man seems to have a mentor here and there. Whether it's Tony Stark or Captain America or someone is leading them along here. And you see that in the Civil War book as well, this whole mentorship of Peter Parker. And I think I'd like to see that as we go through these movies, is that Peter Parker always kind of, at least at the start, needs a mentor.
Yes.
Needs someone along his side to kind of guide him. And then once we get to, say, movie 3 or 4, this is when he breaks out and becomes a mentor to, say, Miles Morales.
That's right.
So they can evolve this character and kind of include other characters from the MCU in the films to help, bring a bit more of that density of character to these Marvel movies, because we need that now. We're not in a space anymore in the MCU where you can have a solo outing of an individual character.
Right.
You need to have something building. Like, I think Black Panther has the ability to do that because it's going to be set in Wakanda. Thor is going to be off-world. So you can do things like that. But these New York, more MCU kind of, this is the box that we're sitting in New York.
Yeah.
They need to acknowledge the fact that Avengers Tower is right down the street.
That's right.
And I think they can do that by bringing in new characters, new Avengers, new MCU characters that we've seen before, or introduce new people into this. I think that's a great avenue to do this, is use Spider-Man as this leverage point to include Captain America or include someone else, Daredevil, whatever. Bring the Netflix characters through Spider-Man.
That's right. Or what a kicker would be if they went the Ultimate Fallout route, where, they've realized, okay, Spider-Man, you're kind of causing a little bit of trouble here. And Captain America is going to train you now. But Captain America kind of fails in his training, and Spider-Man ends up dying. Yeah. And, there's a huge weight felt in the MC, or I guess the Ultimate Universe, where it's like, we let this kid down, and Miles Morales takes his place eventually.
I want to see Miles so
It'd be a big kicker,
years.
right? But I think it'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, it's a route they could go eventually with this character.
Right. But I hope not, though, because I'm a Peter Parker fan, and I hope he never dies. So we'll see.
They all come back.
Well, Tony Stark looks like he's going to play a big role in this film. Do you think, beyond the mentor role, do you think there's a possibility that he's going to give the Uncle Ben speech? With great power comes great responsibility. As a Spider-Man diehard fan, how would you feel about that line being taken away from Uncle Ben?
I'd hate it. If nothing against your idea or anything.
No, I'm just literally shooting ideas.
Yeah, I think it's definitely that's something to come from the words of Uncle Ben. Yeah. I don't mind Tony Stark kind of stepping in as that Uncle Ben figure for this movie, so we're not rehashing the past movie's origin story with Uncle Ben. But I would like to see a flashback of some sort, even with him mentioning those words. Or we all get the hint now, and maybe later on we just hear Spider-Man tell Tony Stark, I heard once words from a great man that with great power comes great responsibility.
That I like
and that would
better.
work, right?
Because there's no sincerity of Tony Stark
Yes.
saying those words. It would be a joke. It would be him saying a joke. But for him to say it back,
Yeah.
I think that would work really well.
a cool take.
I think he's
Yeah.
learned the lesson already, but
Right.
I don't think he lives by that.
Yes.
By having responsibility with the great power.
Right.
We see him still learning that in his
Right.
own movies.
With Gwen's death and even the comic books that
Yeah.
he's always learning, yeah.
Because it's interesting, when I look at the character we saw in Civil War, I don't see that broken Peter Parker character in Holland's portrayal. I just don't see how a year ago or whatever
6 months or whatever,
that Uncle Ben could have died and then he became Spider-Man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't get that yet. So I don't know how much of that story they're actually going to revisit in this. Of course, I think it needs to be there.
Yeah.
This is the essence of Spider-Man is built within the death of Uncle Ben.
Right.
And if it's not there, I think that's a major flaw for the character.
Definitely.
He needs to have that fatal
Yeah.
flaw, right?
It's like Bruce Wayne's parents; they have to die.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I agree we don't need to rehash it, but I'm just thoroughly interested in how they're gonna go about this.
Yeah.
And I worry sometimes that there's that one little speech from the trailer that Tony gives him about the suit.
Yeah.
That's the direction that they're gonna go. I don't think they will go there.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if they did.
Yeah, I think this movie is going to focus kind of heavily on family, and they're going to do it in the right way, not like the Suicide Squad way, or even the latest Fast and the Furious movie. Just because the Vulture seems like there's a lot going on with him. There's some kind of line he mentions in the trailer about family, and even if he has to kill them, he will. I think this movie will focus quite a bit on that, so I don't think they will go too far away from the whole Uncle Ben mythos.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Well, I hope they don't.
I hope
But
so, yeah.
We'll see. We'll
Yeah.
see where they take this character. They might want to do something completely
That's
different.
just it, yeah. I mean, the Ultimate Universe did it a
might
little
have
bit
a
different.
boyfriend.
Yeah,
Right?
maybe.
Yeah? Yeah.
My cousin Vinny.
So Troy, you mentioned the Vulture there. He's going to be the main villain for this film. And we've seen a lot of Spider-Man's rogue gallery throughout the years, over the last 15 years or
Yes.
so. And this is the first time we're going to be seeing the Vulture. Now, he was rumored to be in Spider-Man 3 originally, and he was replaced by Venom.
Right.
He's supposed to be in the never-made Spider-Man 4.
Spider-Man 4, yeah.
And this character, when you go back and look at him, I think he appeared in the second issue that contains Spider-Man.
William Toombs,
Yeah,
and the Tinker,
Adrian
I think.
Toombs.
Adrian Toombs, sorry, yeah.
And in the comic books, he's a ridiculous looking villain. He's an old man, he's bald, he's got this collar of feathers and all this. And they've really modernized and updated. He looks like an ultimate version of the Vulture. What are your thoughts on the Vulture being the main villain from this film? And do you think by having the Vulture, he is a legacy rogues gallery character of Spider-Man.
Yep.
He's someone that's been there since this 1962
Yep.
second issue. But do you think he's the right choice for this MCU film, or do you think that they've gone this route because they're trying to avoid rehashing what we've seen in the previous 5 movies?
I think a bit of both. I think they want to give you something fresh because we've seen Goblin over and over again. And I think Adrian Toombs is a safe route, especially because he's been rumored for quite some time now to appear in a movie. And I think much like Spider-Man 2, we got some really cool sequences between Octopus and Spider-Man. There's some really great action scenes. I think with with Adrian Toombs, you can do that again, especially with a lot of air combat going on, with one flying, the other one web slinging, which is cool. And they're familiar territories with Falcon already, right?
Yeah.
They've kind of done similar things. So I think it's a good way to go. And it's Michael Keaton. It's Batman, the Birdman, playing offset with Tom Holland. So I think that's a cool dynamic, and he's such a great actor too. He's had this renaissance lately in Hollywood. So to see those two go at it, I think it's perfect. Yeah, I really like what they're doing here. I think it'll be a lot better than the Lizard. That's for
I
sure.
agree.
Yeah.
Chris, your thoughts on Vulture?
I was really exactly going to say what Troy said about the visuals that you're going to get. You can achieve those visuals with a Goblin too, right?
Yeah.
And they don't want to keep on giving us the Goblin. In fact, they might not even give us the death of Ben in this. I get from a lot of fans, like, I'm tired of hearing about the origin of Batman and the origin of Spider-Man. Okay, maybe Marvel's going to do it that way. But as far as Vulture in the comics, I never thought he was at all anything interesting.
Yeah.
Any character in my mind that's their main ability is flight, well, that's like nothing compared to somebody who could fly and shoot lasers out of their eyes and do this and that.
Yeah.
And then you got this guy over here. Like, there's Angel from X-Men, and on the cover of X-Men #1, he's holding a bazooka. Like, that's their idea, like, to make him cool. Give him a bazooka. I don't know.
It's interesting you put it that way, because Vulture isn't a villain that I would have saw in this movie. I'm a huge fan of Doc Ock. I know they couldn't rehash this.
Right.
But, like, out of all of the Spider-Man villains that's out there, I love the idea of Doc Ock.
Right.
And Norman Osborn's another favorite of mine.
Yeah.
He's a character in there that I think that they could potentially tease in this film
Dark
for
Avengers,
something
Dark
later
Reign.
on. Exactly.
Yes.
Later on down the road. And having and saving this character the same way that Nolan did with Batman, saving the big characters for later on, for second, third movie, seeding this and doing something different. But I think for this film, looking back on it, and with the idea in mind that they don't want to rehash things, this seems like a logical step. This is a classic Spider-Man villain. He fits this whole technology thing that we're getting a little bit with Tony, and with the upgrades to the suit, we're seeing what looks to be Chitauri type technology as well, with the purple lasers and that.
Did he even make the same kind of noise as the Iron Man?
Yeah,
some kind of similar.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of parallels there, and I think it works. And I always say this, for these type of origin style movies, you don't want to spend a ton of time trying to explain an elaborate origin of your villain while you're trying to focus in on your hero.
Yeah.
And that's what the MCU movies are about, is the hero, and that's sometimes where their shortfall is the villain, right?
Right.
But at the same time, let's seed something bigger for later. I don't think Vulture is going to be something that carries forward through the whole trilogy. I don't think they're establishing that sort of villain, like a Loki or something, right? And whether that's going to be to the detriment of the film, I don't really think so. I think they need someone that is a formidable force, someone that can battle Iron Man and Spider-Man at the same time and not feel like, okay, Iron Man could just come in and wipe this guy out.
That's right.
They needed someone that can hold his own there, and maybe he's got cronies like Shocker and that kicking around as well.
Right.
So I think it's going to be a good villain for the film. It's going to be a villain that fits what they need to do at this point in time in the portrayal, in the development of Peter Parker in the MCU.
Well, yeah, and going back to the old runs too, I think they will do something, and with it building up a villain, kind of like what they've done with Thanos.
Yeah.
And as opposed to using Norman Osborn, I think they will use Dr. Octopus. Way back in the comics, he was the master planner. There's a big reveal later on, I think, when he goes to college, that Dr. Octopus was pulling the strings all along, and he's like the big bad behind everything. And I think it'd be really cool if they did that with Doc Ock, especially because everybody's favorite Spider-Man villain on screen, at least, was probably Doc Ock. I think everybody received him pretty well. So if they use that, I think that would be kind of cool. And he is somebody that could take on Spidey and Iron Man at the same time. Yeah. And plus, he's been getting a big push in the comics lately with the Superior Spider-Man, obviously, and now the Superior Octopus, I think he is, in the Secret Empire. So I think if anybody's to be pushed as like the big bad, it would be Doc Ock. At least I'd hope so. Especially on an intellectual level, too, he rivals Spider-Man.
This is going to sound really funny, but this could really turn into a tense idea with what you're running. Like in the comics, Doc Ock married Aunt May.
That's right.
And I was joking around earlier saying Aunt May has a boyfriend. So what if, he shows up and you kind of get like that sense of like, oh, the villain's at the door.
Right.
Kind of thing. They could build up some tension with that. It's going to be all in the casting and stuff.
For sure.
Man, that could be a fun avenue.
That would be a nod to fans too. Like remember that time when Doc Ock was with them.
Well, Aunt May's not this little tiny old lady either.
That's just right.
Well, that's the other thing. She keeps de-aging, and so maybe there's a purpose behind it.
Well, we've seen a lot of iterations of Spider-Man in the comics, but we've also seen a lot in film, and we've discussed quite a bit here about previous iterations here, but I just want to get your guys' favorite moments from the previous movies, because when you look back at Spider-Man as a whole, the trilogy itself, the original Sam Raimi trilogy, the 2002 version, this is a very important movie, and I think as important as this Tom Holland Spider-Man is for the MCU is what that was for the comic book film industry as a whole. This is coming off of the back end of Batman, the kind of death of Batman and Robin and that whole genre itself. And you pick up in 2002 with Spider-Man, and this now makes comic book movies viable commercially as well as critically. This movie, this Spider-Man, this first Spider-Man, then you come into Spider-Man 2, you're getting the X-Men. They're starting to carry the weight of this industry. And without those iterations particularly Spider-Man, I think, we probably don't have the MCU that we have today.
That's right.
So again, it shows how important this character is to the film industry, to the comic book industry, and how important it is to have a good Spider-Man in film, in the MCU in particular. So it always kind of, I always maybe try to draw too many parallels to things and that how things relate to one another. But I'm seeing this Spider-Man movie in a similar fashion that I saw Spider-Man the original, is that the importance of what it's going to do going forward in the MCU.
Right.
As being, like I've said numerous times here, the pillar. And the original Spider-Man was that very thing for the industry as a whole, for the comic book industry. And I love going back and revisiting those movies because I feel like they're so genuine in their take.
Right.
Is that they were something new, something different. They had the ability to kind of do whatever they want, and they really ushered in this new era of comic books, of comic book film, of comic books in general, I think. And I think there's a lot to give back to Spider-Man there. And I think supporting this whole Spider-Man in the MCU is something that everyone's going to do. But I think there's a little bit more to that. There's a little bit more, I think, invested here for me personally because of what Spider-Man did for everything. I don't think I would have gotten into comic books in the absence of Spider-Man.
Right, wow.
I don't read Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I think the implications for what he was able to do and what Sam Raimi did with that trilogy, or at least the first two movies, and I don't think it should be understated how important Spider-Man is to all this. And I think that's an appreciation I didn't fully have until I really started looking back in the last year or so of having Spider-Man in the MCU. I never really saw it as being that important.
Right.
And even for Civil War, I agree that you needed that character. But in my mind, I was like, okay, cool, Spider-Man's going to be in the MCU.
Right.
But when you look back at this as a whole, it's so much more important than just having another character in this, having whomever come over from like Daredevil or Punisher come back from wherever they were before. This is so much more important than that. And I think this whole idea behind the acquisition or this kind of relationship that they developed with Sony is not only for their own brand, but for the fans themselves.
Yeah.
And I can really appreciate that. I kind of went on a tangent there.
Spider-Man's the best.
Yeah.
He's great. He's
Hail
great.
Spider-Man.
Well, what are some of you guys' favorite moments from previous movies that we have seen, from Amazing Spider-Man or the original Spider-Man Sam Raimi trailer? Sam Raimi movie that you think maybe they're going to start to maybe reuse or kind of look back and kind of try to reflect some of that in this Tom Holland Homecoming movie?
There's quite a bit. Going again back to Spider-Man 2, the Doc Ock sequences on the clock tower there. Mm-hmm. That was incredible stuff, especially the CG back then. What Sam Raimi did there was phenomenal. I really, I didn't like Spider-Man 2. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is my least favorite, next to Spider-Man 3. But the death of Gwen Stacy there, that sequence was spot on. It was the best thing in that movie.
Yeah.
So that was well done. And going back to Civil War, the whole airport sequence was phenomenal. But Spider-Man, against Ant-Man and comparing it to the AT-AT in Empire Strikes Back, probably one of my favorite scenes of all time. So there's lots to go off there. Yeah.
There's a lot of really great action scenes and a lot of comedy, a lot of good moments. But I was thinking about the third movie.
Yeah.
The bad one. And there's something really great in that movie, and that's the origin of Sandman.
Oh,
yes.
It's
good.
so good.
Yeah.
Because you feel an emotional connection to him, the pacing, the time that's passing as he's dissolving and rebuilding himself, and the motivation that's there. It was like beautiful,
right?
Like what they did with Sandman. So even in the worst movie,
there's
something really good going on. Yeah.
That was a phenomenal scene. Yeah.
I have to go back to the web slinging.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really hope we see a lot of
the time.
It's so good. Like in Civil War, you didn't have the tall buildings because we're at this airport, right? There wasn't much for him to do the big, long web slinging.
Right.
And I want to see more of that because that's some of my favorite parts about Sam Raimi's Spider-Man's is that even the development of the mechanics of web slinging through those different movies, you can see it evolve if you go back and watch them.
You really can.
Even into Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2,
yes,
it looks really, really good. And that's one of the most iconic things about Spider-Man is him web slinging through New York.
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten that with this iteration of Spider-Man.
That's right.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing him explore New York by web slinging.
Oh, I can't wait. And actually, now that you guys brought up the web swinging, I got to mention Amazing Spider-Man 1 with the Stan Lee cameo in the high school.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the best things I've ever seen. One of my favorite cameos of all time, and so cool seeing Spider-Man in high school, having to transform into a suit, during the day, find the lizard in his own high school. So I thought that was really cool. And yeah, I think Stan Lee had some kind of
He had headphones on.
he had headphones on, yeah, right,
Yeah,
and he had some music going on, and
Yeah.
Spider-Man just saved him with the table about
Yeah.
to fly at him. So love that scene.
Which
Yeah.
one is your favorite of the 5 that we've had before?
For me, Amazing
Yeah.
Spider-Man 1 or Spider-Man 2. I really like those two a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's hard to choose between the first two. They're really good. I'll say 2, just because William Dafoe's not in it.
Yeah.
I like William Dafoe. It's just, it's a little over the top.
See, when I picture Norman Osborn, it's his voice I have in my head because
Okay,
of those
sure.
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just he has maybe not so much in his character portrayal, but the way he was with his voice and that.
Yeah.
Like it, even when I think it was it 2 or 3 where he sees him in the mirror, James Franco.
Yeah.
That
That's
his
3.
voice
Yeah.
there is just chilling.
Right. Right.
But I'd have to say probably 2 as well. I'm a big fan of Doc Ock. Like I
Oh,
like what they did
that's
there.
great.
And
Loved
that
it.
whole story, how it evolved and how it just kind of turned out towards the end. And
Right.
there was a lot of stakes there, and then you've got James Franco's character. He's
Right.
quite good in that.
And again, that mentor factor between him and
Yes,
Doc Ock, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like that. They
a good
built
angle.
up on that.
That's
It
right.
was a really good
That's
angle.
right. And J.K. Simmons
Yeah.
as Jay Jonah.
Is
right?
Jay Jonah, I don't know if he's not going to be in this. I guess he's a little bit further down the line, eh?
No, he's Commissioner Gordon now, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He switched sides. Bastard. Well, as we wrap up here, we look at Peter Parker in the MCU. He's got a very short history. But there's an interesting quote from Tom Holland earlier today.
Yeah.
And it revolves around Peter Parker being in the MCU prior to Civil War.
That's right. Yeah.
And this is something he confirmed.
Yeah.
It was an article I read on comicbookmovie.com, or
Yeah.
comicbook.com, I think. And Tom Holland said, in reference to a question about Peter Parker being in the MCU before,
Right.
particularly in an Iron Man 2 sequence at the World's Fair, or the Stark Expo, and there's that little kid that's wearing the Spider-Man, or the Iron Man mask that Iron Man comes out and saves from a hammer drone.
Yeah.
So Tom Holland confirmed today
That was him.
that is in fact Peter Parker.
Right. I thought it's so cool that
Yeah.
he confirmed that. As
Yeah.
long as he wasn't the kid in Iron Man 3.
Yes.
It works for me.
So this is coming straight from Feige and Tom Holland. He said they discussed this, but Spider-Man has been in the MCU, or is in that continuity, since 2010.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What do you think about that little retcon? Does that make sense, or is that too close? Like, is there too much there? I feel like they've seeded a bit of that because it might be like a reference. Oh, you saved me once, and that's why I want to be like you.
Right.
Type thing.
Right. Yeah, I think it works because I guess growing up in that universe, if you were to, Iron Man would be like that figure that everybody looked up to. So it kind of makes sense that Spider-Man was at one of those fairs and he had the toy helmet and all that. So I think it's kind of cool. I think it's harmless too. It's not too much where you have to look into it and be like, wait, this doesn't line up. Like,
Yeah.
it's just enough to be like, yeah, that works. The age probably lines up
works
too.
Yeah, ish.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's kind of
yeah.
cool
I
now.
think it's kind of neat.
What if they're going to somehow include this in the film somehow, like a flashback sequence, or like, I remember that time?
I think they really could.
Well, to bring it up, for them to say it at all, like, does it really, like you said,
Right.
it's so light, like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, what about that poor kid that really played that little
Yeah.
kid? Like, what happened to him?
Oh my god, I played Spider-Man. I didn't know that.
But it seems like such a weird thing. Like, last night we're watching movies and came up with fan theories, so we're gonna make this one real.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
I think
sorry.
there could be a nod to it.
Yeah?
Like when I first heard it, I was like, "Oh my god, they're gonna do the death of Ben at the Stark Expo."
Oh.
But I don't. But it doesn't really line up with age. It
Yeah,
doesn't
and then with the
work.
responsibility factor.
Yeah, it doesn't, and it doesn't line up for that whole thing. Like he could have stopped the death.
Yeah, it's got to be
Right.
as
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's got to have the ability to stop it. That was the first thing that ran through my head.
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, they're gonna do that," but.
And he might be mad at Stark, just
Yeah.
residually. Stark Expo, Tony Stark.
Yeah.
I think if anything, it's going to be like, hey, I want to be like you because you saved me, and I saw you do this when I was a kid.
Right.
And that's kind of how I've wanted to portray myself.
Right. Plus, he's a science geek, right?
Yeah.
Like he's in that world.
I figured
of,
it would be a given he would be interested in a super inventor like Tony Stark.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. Because I remember going into Civil War, as soon as we saw that one scene when Tony's at the university, I was like, "Oh, we're going to see Tom Holland walk through here." You know, it didn't happen, but you just connect the dots with science and all that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Well, to close out here, guys, after credit scenes, this is something that's become a staple for MCU movies.
Yes.
And being that we've got the confirmation that Tom Holland's going to be at least in Avengers Infinity War, and we're going to get a sequel in July of 2019, what do you think they could possibly seed in this movie for future events or future Spider-Man movies? What do you think they could be doing here? What would you like to see? What would
Venom.
Tom Hardy just shows up, or maybe Black Cat stealing something, breaking into something. Again, going back, I think it might be maybe a Doc Ock seating. You might see him doing something. Maybe Norman Osborn, but I hope not. I hope we kind of stay away from Norman for a while, like really build that character up if we do go down that route. But yeah, maybe Doc Ock working on something.
Yeah. Chris, any thoughts?
Well, I think they would probably interject some Venom stuff since they're so moving forward with that movie.
Right.
But I think we're kind of thinking more along the lines of Avengers directly.
Right.
So I don't know. It's a tough one. Are they just going to throw something random in there about the next Avengers? What's the next Avengers
Infinity
movie?
War.
It is Infinity War.
Next May.
They might just skip it and say, let's do a Venom after credits. I don't know.
Because it's Sony's call at the end of the day, too, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
creatively, Marvel.
Yeah, I guess if Sony wanted to push their product, though, because it's a Sony movie, essentially, at the end of the day, I guess they'd still have to work it out with Marvel anyways, but if they want to do the Venom movie...
I don't think... Feige's been adamant that that's not included.
He did, yeah, exactly.
And I seeded this idea last week of if it is included... Because there was that whole thing with Amy Pascal last week.
Yes.
Being like,
Giggling, yeah.
And, but one of my thoughts was, what if Venom is in the movie, but he's introduced in Infinity War? He comes on the back end of...
It's actually Secret War.
Right. Because we did see the photo of Tom Holland covered up.
Yeah.
Like everybody else is in the regular clothes and Tom Holland's covered up.
Black suit.
Could he wear that black suit? I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope
that'd
so.
be incredible.
The Ultimate Run did a really good job too. That Peter's parents, his dad and Eddie's dad, were both scientists, and they worked on this suit to cure cancer, and that actually turned into the Venom.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, which is pretty neat too. So, but if we go on cosmic, you gotta do the Secret War route. I'd hope so at least.
I really think there's going to be an Infinity War seed here because they've been filming Infinity War for a couple months now, and we know Tom Holland was on set with Downey and Star-Lord.
That's right.
Right.
So they technically have footage.
Footage.
It's not something extra. It could be just like what they did with Civil War and Ant-Man. It's just a scene that they plucked that they had already filmed.
That's right.
And dropped it into the end that referenced the character.
Right.
So whether it's something crazy with Star-Lord or if
Right.
it's something very minor with Tony Stark and Tom Holland interacting a bit about this coming threat, I think
Right.
that makes sense to me.
Right.
That would be in there. But realistically, they're probably going to spend the time building up the Spider-Man universe because they want it to be
That's
their
right.
next Iron Man or Captain
Yeah.
America level of franchise.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to see Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
I really, really do. But I'm dreaming here.
Yeah.
But how about Kingpin from Netflix?
Ooh.
Or Daredevil or something. Like, they're not going to do it.
I lose my mind if it's
But-
Kingpin. He's first introduced in Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
tied to this. Is Vincent DeFont, or what's his last name? Whatever.
It's Vincent something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a character that if he just walked in,
Yeah.
people would lose their minds.
Oh yeah, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, or even
Oh.
just a mention of this blind guy, this devil of Hell's Kitchen or something. Like just finally acknowledging the Netflix series because we're so New York centric with Spider-Man.
That's true.
It makes sense to acknowledge the Defenders or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that's something cool that they could do.
Right. Right.
And if they really got their shit together,
Yeah.
they-
And yeah, it's that balance between the TV division and the movie
Yeah.
division.
so
So it'd even be neat if Spider-Man's suit was ripped. He's like, oh man, who's gonna stitch this? Because in the Secret Wars,
Yeah.
he ends up having to get the black suit. I don't know. There's so many opportunities they could go.
yeah.
I need a detective.
All right. Personal anticipation for this. How stoked are you for this as we wrap it up here?
Yeah, it's on my all-time still. It was on my most anticipated list, number one. Last Jedi, that trailer's pretty good though, so that might be number one too. I don't know. it's up there. So I can't wait to see this. I got my tickets already. I got a couple Marvel Legends already to go along with this movie. So I'm totally stoked. Yeah.
Chris, how about you?
I'm just probably a notch under Troy, just a little bit. I don't have my tickets yet, but I'm a big Spider-Man fan, and I'm so excited for this. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, actually, a funny fact. Just going off here, when Chris and I first met each other, the death of Spider-Man was just happening, I believe, in the Ultimate Universe. And I went to after we worked, I went to a store and I got a Spider-Man T-shirt printed to go.
Really?
Yeah, made to go with the whole like death of Spider-Man that day, and I picked it up that day. So, fun fact there.
Comics bring people together.
Yes,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Exactly.
That's why I started talking to you. You had Spider-Man on your binder.
Yeah, you had the Captain America shirt on. Yeah.
Awesome. I agree with you guys. I'm stoked for this one. I'm really looking forward to sitting down in the theater and watching this and seeing how this film fits into the MCU as a whole, but also how it kicks off a new franchise for Marvel, for Sony, I guess, and what they're going to do with this character in the future. I think there's huge potential here. He's going to show up in every Avengers movie going forward, and I think there's a lot here, and I'm really excited for this. So, anyways, as we end the show, Chris, thank you very much for having us here, for opening up Alpha Comics for us to record in here. I've had an absolute blast talking comic books and movies here. It's been a lot of fun looking around, too, when I'm not talking at the trades, and the back issue bins here. But why don't you tell people where they can find you on the internet and a little bit about the store?
Oh, sure. Our website is alphacomics.ca. We've been doing a lot on there lately. We've been doing comic book reviews and all kinds of things. We're located in Linwood in Calgary on 18th Street, north of the Ogden Safeway, about 5 minutes from Chinook Center. And we're open 6 days a week, so please check our hours before visiting.
Yeah, it's absolutely awesome. Make sure you guys get down here if you're in the area. Come down and hang out on Wednesdays. I know you guys always got a big crew in here, kind of chilling, reading comic books. Exactly, talking about comic books, like-minded individuals here, and it's a lot of fun. So I know, Troy, you're here down here almost.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as much as I can. And if I'm not here for a while, I come out with a fat stack of comics. So, yeah, it's the best place in the world, guys. Come down here, and, Chris has you covered for all the DC collectibles. It's a hard time finding these DC figures anywhere. So you can always come down here and pick those guys up because I love them.
Yeah, there you go. All right, guys, so it's been an absolute pleasure sitting here in Alpha Comics talking about Spider-Man, talking about Star Wars, and a little bit about Marvel Legacy. If you guys are interested in more MCU, we do our retrospective series. That's one review a month for the next 18 months, or for 18 months. And this month, we're doing Captain America, the First Avenger. You can go back in our back catalog. We've done everything from Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Incredible Hulk, Thor, and now we're kicking up into Captain America, the First Avenger, where we sit back and we review these things with the idea of the MCU in place at this point. So it's a nice retrospective look back. That episode drops this Friday, the 30th. So that's our June review, and our July review is going to be Spider-Man Homecoming. It's a little bit out of order, but we're trying to capture these things for a weekend of release review. So that'll be coming out in a few weeks as well as Spider-Man drops next week. We hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation, you can always hit us up at thenerdrm@gmail.com. You can comment on our Facebook or YouTube pages, or you can hit us up on Twitter. Our handles are at the end of the episode. Well, all right, guys. Thank you again, Chris, for having us here at Alpha Comics. And until next week for the Nerd Room, I'm Tim.
I'm Troy.
And Chris.
And thank you for entering Alpha Comics and the Nerd Room.
This has been a Nerd Room podcast production. You can find our hosts, Tim and Troy, on Twitter at TheNerdRM and Troy TheBoy87. Don't forget to subscribe to the Nerd Room on iTunes, Facebook, and YouTube. Just search the Nerd Room Podcast. Be sure to head over to StarWarsCommonwealth.com to find other podcasts on the Star Wars Commonwealth Podcast Network, including Talk Star Wars, Generation X-Wing, Tumbling Saber, Rogue Squadron Podcast, and the Skyhopper Podcast. Follow the Star Wars Commonwealth on Twitter at SW Commonwealth and take your first steps into a larger world.